Well, good afternoon. I'm Terry Buckmiller, and I have the honor of serving as chair of our APSA Wellness Committee. I truly fell in love with our profession in my early days as a medical student. Match day is still a very vivid memory. My joy in caring for patients and families has only intensified over the years. We are all very blessed to be in this profession. But this profession is also hard and stressful and can challenge even the most seasoned surgeon. There were two abstracts that we just heard in the prior scientific session that explored burnout in pediatric surgeons. The first, by Fraser and colleagues, showed that most pediatric surgeons have overall job satisfaction, but up to 89% reported some degree of burnout. 89%. The second, by Lai and colleagues, also found this alarming trend in our recent pediatric surgery fellows. The APSA leadership, starting with Dr. Herschel, Vacanti, Waldhausen, Barksdale, Kandel, and Tracy, care deeply about each one of you and have formed and have now charged our Wellness Committee with providing a laser beam focus on these issues to employ mitigation strategies to ensure that we can continue to provide the very best care to our patients, our families, and ourselves. We have three speakers, Drs. Brandt, Hu, and Heiss, whose passion and scholarly expertise will be shared with us in the promoting our individual awareness and fostering intentional change. If each of you can take home just one new thought, reach out to a colleague who is suffering, seek personal support, or make an incremental step at your institution towards cultural change, we will all consider this session a success. So with that, I'd like to welcome Dr. Mary Brandt to start our panel discussion.
So we're going to take you through first personal wellness, and no, it's not Wellness 1.0. I'm not going to talk about yoga and putting bananas in the surgeon's lounge. And then we're going to talk about institutional, and then finally end up in sort of a much broader view nationwide and how we can view this in our culture and our society. So we'd first of all like to acknowledge that we are standing on the unceded land of the Muskogee people. So self-care, which is my topic, and this is my one and only slide on this, okay? Because we really are moving into a new era, I think. Because the root cause of surgeon distress is not the individual, it's the system. But we still have to be personally strong enough to change the system for ourselves and for our trainees. So to that point, treat your physical being like you would a child. Good food, play, naps, being with friends, and seeing the right doctor if something isn't right. Treat your emotional self with kindness and care. Stay connected. Know that whatever you're feeling is what human beings feel. There's nothing wrong with you. But do seek professional help when you're struggling to feel whole. And treat your spiritual self intentionally. Find something bigger than you and spend some time in stillness there every day. What I want to do for all of us is to bear witness to what we are going through and what sort of are the root causes of this terrible epidemic that we are experiencing of physician distress and burnout. And I'll start with COVID. I bear witness to the fact that this has been devastating. It affected our ability to provide care. We had personal fear for ourselves and our loved ones. We were afraid we'd take it home, especially early. And we did all this in a milieu where we had a society where a good part of our society was rejecting evidence-based, common sense public health recommendations and fighting with us about it. Tate Shanafelt, who ran that first ACS survey you heard about, did a study and concluded that for physicians across the United States, we became more burned out and we had less job satisfaction due to COVID. I also bear witness to the EMR, and yes, it is better access to information and communication. There are some positive things, but a huge, profound change in workflow. It's estimated it's 16 extra minutes per encounter. And what that means is you have to either do it during the encounter, so you give up the face-to-face contact, or you take it home with you, because we can't do that in a workday. But the real hard part of the EMR for us is it is disproportionately focused on billing. This graph is a very important graph to look at. This is the time on the EMR. And green are American physicians. The gold color is all other countries in the world that use an EMR. Our median time on our electronic health record is over twice what the rest of the world has, and that's because of the billing issues. We've heard some incredible talks about gun violence, and every single one of us has that face in our mind, or that child that died in our ICU. We have to bear witness to this in a far more profound way than most people in our society do, and it injures us. This was less than a month ago, and I think Jason Smith spoke for all of us after the Louisville, Kentucky shooting. I'll tell you personally, I'm weary. It's more than tired, I'm weary. There's only so many times that you can walk into a room and tell someone that their child isn't coming home. It just breaks your heart. I also bear witness to the fact that we are injured by the political interference in our society right now. And no matter what your personal politics or beliefs, there's no question that the rhetoric of conflict and the interference with evidence-based medicine in reproductive health, in gender care, in gun violence, in all kinds of public health issues hurts us. And maybe most importantly, and something we don't talk about, most everyone in this room has some part of their social identity that's marginalized, but everyone in this room is marginalized in a way we don't think about. Because in my lifetime, and particularly in the last 20 years, we have had a shift from physician-controlled practices in hospitals to corporate mergers. And that has placed all of us, all healers, all surgeons, all physicians, no longer in the center. We are on the margins of the decision-making in our hospitals. And that leads to moral distress. The definition is being in a system or situation that makes it impossible to do what we know is right. And enough moral distress leads to moral injury. The burden of harm and the diminishment of vitality that arises in individuals and communities when we or others violate our moral compasses. We're suffering. Depression, PTSD, emotional exhaustion, whatever words you want to put on it, we're suffering. And we're dying. The number is 400. We know it's more than that. Doctors are very good at this and very good in those unexplained deaths. Many of those are suicides. So it's more than 400 a year. APSA personally had to deal with this. After Eric Jellin's death by suicide, all of us had to stop and honestly ask, how could this happen to one of our own? And what could we do to keep this tragedy from happening again? One of my dear friends who is a suicide prevention counselor, when I called her after this, and she and I actually did a video together on grief after suicide and suicide prevention, she said something that really stuck out in my mind. She said, if everyone had 5 people to call, 5 people that they could ask in advance to be there for them when things got hard, I truly believe death by suicide would stop. So we did that in APSA. We developed the Connect 5 program. and it's on the website. There's details to help you in having these conversations. But what we're asking everyone to do is identify 5 people ahead of time, often not people you work with, maybe not even surgeons, that you can call when things get really bad. Now, I want to end with a couple of other things because I'm also the chair of the ACS Surgeon Wellbeing Committee, actually Task Force Soon-to-Be Committee. And I want to tell you a little bit about what's happening there because it interfaces so much with APSA, and there's so much, it's a Venn diagram where there's a lot of us in both. But we've been using a tool called contextual creativity that Larry Graham described in his book, and I want to describe it to you. So when we looked at this, and we're way into well-being 3.0 or 4.0, here's how we name the problem. Surgeon well-being is not about resilience, grit, or any other individual deficit. It is about a broken system that measures and promotes things that are not fully in alignment with the values of practicing surgeons. But leaders and managers in healthcare systems don't wake up in the morning, look in the mirror, and decide to go to work to hurt people. And they also don't have any incentive for time or money or anything it takes to promote surgeon well-being. So we named it. The next step is framing it, and this is how Dr. Graham describes it. This is not the usual framing that you're probably used to. Framing what we name is the basis for changing the power of the past. Naming alone is not enough. When we frame what we name in actionable and benevolent terms, we begin to gain the power to resist, change, and heal. The bold is mine, but you reframe in a way that makes it actionable and benevolent. So here's how we frame it. There is no malicious intent to create harm for surgeons in healthcare systems. However, there is a lack of communication and shared values between surgeons and administrators, a deficit that contributes to significant harm, suffering, and death. So we're going to enact 3 things we're going to do. The first thing is we're sponsoring a palaver, and I know you know what that word means, so hang on, I'm going to show you, between leaders of the American College of Surgeons and the leaders of the American Hospital Association. So what's a palaver? It is a meeting without an agenda. Okay? It is not bullet points. It is a long discussion. It's not linear decision-making or a task force. Dr. Graham again describes it. This is change that is received as a result of attentive living, and I would add listening, rather than as something to orchestrate based on analysis and conviction. We also created a coalition of surgical organizations to work together for change by sharing best practices, proposing new policies, and developing research protocols. We identified 66 surgical organizations. They've all responded, and over 50 of them were in our first meeting, which was just a few weeks ago. So this is, I think, a very positive thing, and it's going to be very exciting. And then the last and the most important one, we know that we need to include metrics to measure surgeon well-being in a way that gives impact. So the American College of Surgeons is now committed to putting metrics of surgeon well-being into all ACS accreditation and verification programs. So what that means is if you're a pediatric center, an ACS certified center, from now on, yes, your committee meetings have to be documented and people have to respond within 20 minutes, but you also have to meet the criteria, the metrics for well-being, or you will be dinged, you'll have a deficiency. So what will those metrics be? We don't know, because we decided we needed to ask you and ask all surgeons what they should be. So that survey that you heard about that was done in 2010, we are redoing the entire ACS survey, asking very specifically about the metrics that you want to see used that hospital administrators are going to have to meet. So when you get this survey, please don't let it be 40%. Please answer this one because it's going to have a really big impact. Thank you.